Before we begin, remember this channel survives on stories they don't want forgotten. Like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts below, because what you're about to hear was buried behind concrete, steel, and silence. The lights never turn off in Pelican Bay. At 3:17 a.m., deep inside a concrete box near the Oregon border, an alarm screamed through the prison. Guards ran. Radios cracked. Steel doors slammed. Somewhere in the security housing unit, known as the SHU, something had gone terribly wrong. An inmate refused to respond. No movement, no voice, no sound. This was Pelican Bay State Prison in California, the place built to hold America's most dangerous inmates. The men everyone said could never be controlled. And now, one of them had vanished inside a locked cell. What really happened to the most dangerous inmates in Pelican Bay? The answer would shock the entire country. But to understand that night, we have to rewind all the way back to the beginning. Pelican Bay State Prison opened in 1989 near the small town of Crescent City, California. It sat close to the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by fog, forest, and isolation. No big cities, no noise, just cold air and concrete. This prison was different. It wasn't built for rehabilitation. It wasn't built for second chances. It was built for control. Inside Pelican Bay was the SHU Security Housing Unit, a place for inmates labeled the worst of the worst. Gang leaders, serial killers, men accused of ordering murders from behind bars. Names like Thomas Silverstein, Luis Calderon, and other inmates whose case files filled entire rooms. In the SHU, prisoners lived alone. Small cells, gray walls, no windows to the outside world, just a thin slit of glass and a steel door. They spent 22.5 hours a day inside those cells. No handshakes, no group meals, no yard, just a concrete exercise pen that felt like a cage. Some inmates stayed there for years, some for decades. Investigators later asked a hard question. What does that kind of isolation do to a human mind? At first, Pelican Bay was praised. Crime inside dropped. Guards felt safer. Reports said violence was under control. But behind those reports, something else was happening. Men started to break. Inmate interviews described voices that weren't there. Walls that felt like they were moving. Time that stopped making sense. Some inmates stopped talking. Others screamed for hours. Medical staff filed reports. Psychologists warned about serious mental harm. Case files stacked up with notes marked urgent. But the prison stayed quiet. Too quiet. Then came the first lawsuits. In the early 1990s, civil rights attorneys filed a major case called Madrid versus Gomez. It accused Pelican Bay of cruel treatment, excessive force, and serious mental health abuse. During the investigation, federal judges toured the SHU. They saw cells smaller than parking spaces. They read incident reports about beatings and neglect. They heard testimony from doctors. One judge wrote that placing mentally ill inmates in the SHU was the mental equivalent of putting an asthmatic in a room with no air. That ruling changed some policies, but not enough. The SHU stayed open, and the most dangerous inmates stayed locked inside. Years passed. Then came 2011. On a hot July morning, something unexpected happened. Inmates stopped eating. It started quietly. A few men in Pelican Bay refused breakfast, then lunch, then dinner. Within days, the hunger strike spread. Not just inside Pelican Bay, but across California. San Quentin, Folsom, Corcoran. Thousands of inmates joined. The leaders were men inside the SHU. The ones nobody heard from. The ones buried alive in concrete. They had 5 demands. End indefinite solitary confinement. Improve food. Stop group punishment. Provide fair investigations. They said they would starve until someone listened. Prison officials tried to stay calm. Public statements said everything was under control. But medical reports told a different story. Inmates were losing weight fast. Blood pressure dropped. Some collapsed. Families protested outside prison walls. Human rights groups called it torture. The state of California was forced to respond. After weeks, the hunger strike paused. But the damage was done. Investigators began digging deeper. They looked at how inmates were placed in the SHU. One detail stood out. Many inmates were sent there not for crimes, but for alleged gang ties, sometimes based on drawings, sometimes on letters, sometimes on rumors. No clear end date, no clear way out. That meant some men labeled dangerous had never committed violence inside prison at all. The label stuck, and the isolation continued. By 2013, the hunger strikes returned, stronger than before. This time, over 30,000 inmates participated statewide. It became one of the largest prison protests in U.S. history. Media crews arrived. Reporters asked hard questions. Lawmakers demanded briefings. Case files, once sealed, were opened, and what they found inside Pelican Bay terrified them. Inmate logs showed men held in isolation for over 20 years. Mental health reports showed sharp decline. Incident timelines showed self-harm, suicide attempts, and sudden medical emergencies. America started asking a new question. What happened to these men after years inside Pelican Bay? Then came the settlement. In 2015, California agreed to end indefinite solitary confinement. Hundreds of inmates were moved out of the SHU. Some were sent to general population. Others were transferred to different prisons. And some were released back into society. That's when the real shock began. Former SHU inmates walked out of prison gates after decades in isolation. No phones, no social skills, no sense of modern life. Caseworkers reported panic attacks, fear of open spaces, trouble speaking to people. One former inmate froze in a grocery store aisle. Another couldn't sleep without the light on. These were men once called America's most dangerous inmates. Now they were broken. But not all stories ended quietly. Some former inmates reoffended. Police reports in California and Nevada linked a few released SHU inmates to new crimes, assaults, robberies, and violations. Detectives debated cause and effect. Did isolation make them worse? Or were they always dangerous? Then came that night. Back inside Pelican Bay, 3:17 a.m. The alarm. Guards reached the cell. They looked through the glass. The inmate lay still on the floor. Medical staff rushed in. The man had been alive hours earlier. Now he showed no response. The incident report would later state unknown causes. But rumors spread fast. Other inmates banged on doors. Guards whispered. Investigators were called. Because this wasn't just a death. It was someone who had survived years in the SHU. Someone labeled too dangerous to ever be free. And now, after all that isolation, after all those reforms, he was gone. As dawn broke over the foggy hills of Northern California, Pelican Bay locked down. And one question echoed through the prison halls and across the nation. If this is what happened to America's most dangerous inmates, what did the prison really create? And more importantly, who would be next? The prison stayed locked down after the death. At Pelican Bay, lockdown meant silence. No movement, no yard, no programs, just the hum of lights and the sound of boots on concrete. Investigators arrived from Sacramento before noon. State officials, internal affairs, medical examiners, clipboards in hand, faces tight. The dead inmate's name was Daniel Reyes. He was 52 years old. He had spent 23 years in solitary confinement. Reyes had entered Pelican Bay in the early 1990s, transferred from Los Angeles County after a violent gang case. His file said high risk, extreme influence, threat to institutional safety. But the file also showed something else. Reyes had not committed a violent act in prison for over 15 years. No assaults, no weapon fines, no recent rule violations. Still, he stayed in the SHU. The official cause of death was listed as pending. Inside the prison, rumors filled the gaps. Some inmates said Reyes had stopped eating weeks earlier. Others said he begged for medical help and was ignored. A few claimed he had been placed back into isolation after asking for transfer. None of it was confirmed. Yet, outside the walls, news began to leak. A reporter from San Francisco received a tip. Then another from Los Angeles. By nightfall, social media posts mentioned a suspicious death at Pelican Bay. The Department of Corrections issued a short statement. An inmate was found unresponsive. There is no threat to public safety. That line didn't calm anyone. Families of other SHU inmates called lawyers. Advocacy groups demanded records. A state senator requested a full report. Inside Pelican Bay, guards felt the pressure. They followed protocol, logged every step, every door, every radio call. Some had worked there for decades. They knew the prison had changed, but not enough. In the days after Reyes's death, investigators interviewed staff. One guard admitted Reyes had complained of chest pain. Another said medical staff were short-handed that night. A nurse reported Reyes had refused his last meal. Each detail was small. Together, they formed a dangerous picture. Meanwhile, inmates were moved. Cells once used for long-term isolation were emptied. Men stepped into hallways they hadn't seen in years. Some blinked under fluorescent lights like they were new to the world. Others shook. Case workers watched closely. One former SHU inmate, Michael Turner, couldn't stop pacing. He whispered to himself. Another, James Holloway, asked if the doors would lock again. The calm moments didn't last. A week later, the autopsy report came back. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. But under contributing factors, one line stood out. Prolonged isolation, extreme psychological stress. That phrase lit a fire. Lawmakers demanded hearings. Civil rights groups called to proof. Former inmates gave interviews. One said, Pelican Bay didn't just lock us up. It erased us. But the state pushed back. Officials said the prison housed dangerous men. They said safety came first. Then came the numbers. A leaked internal report showed over 1,100 inmates had spent more than 10 years in solitary. More than 200 spent over 20. Medical costs were high. Suicide attempts were higher. The public reaction was split. Some Americans said the inmates deserved it. Others asked if punishment had gone too far. In Crescent City, the small town near Pelican Bay, locals watched the news closely. The prison was their biggest employer. Change scared them. Inside the prison, tension grew. Inmates talked through vents. Some planned protests. Others stayed silent, afraid of consequences. Then something else happened. A former Pelican Bay SHU inmate was arrested in Phoenix, Arizona. His name was Robert Lane. Lane had been released 6 months earlier after 30 years in prison. Police reports said he attacked a stranger at a bus stop. No warning, no words. The victim survived. The headlines spread fast. Former Supermax inmate arrested in violent attack. Critics of reform pointed to it immediately. This is what happens when you let monsters out, one comment read. But Lane's lawyer told a different story. Lane had no support, no counseling, no job. He had panic attacks. He couldn't sleep. The attack happened after days without rest. 2 stories, 2 truths. Back at Pelican Bay, investigators finished their review. They found no direct misconduct in Reyes's death. No single mistake, just a system that slowly crushed a man. The final report used careful words. Policy failure. Systemic neglect. But no one was fired. No one was charged. The prison reopened. Life continued. Yet something had shifted. Guards noticed inmates watching them more closely. Inmates noticed guards hesitating. The fear was different now. Not explosive. Quiet. Then late one evening, during count, a guard noticed an empty cell. Not a missing body. An open door. The cell belonged to an inmate named Eric Dawson. Dawson had been transferred from the SHU weeks earlier. He was supposed to be in a monitored unit, but he wasn't there. Radios crackled. Doors slammed. Another lockdown. Search teams moved fast. They checked bathrooms, storage rooms, yards. No sign of Dawson. Security cameras showed him walking calmly down a hallway. Then the footage cut out. For 3 minutes, the cameras went dark. When they came back on, Dawson was gone. No one could explain it. Pelican Bay was built to keep men in. Now, one of the most dangerous inmates had disappeared inside its walls. And this time, there was no body yet. The search for Eric Dawson lasted all night. Dogs barked. Flashlights cut through concrete halls. Guards checked the same rooms again and again, hoping they missed something. They hadn't. At sunrise, Pelican Bay was still locked down. Helicopters circled above the fog. The Pacific wind carried the sound of rotors across the yard. Dawson was not outside the prison. That was the first conclusion. Pelican Bay was designed like a maze. Steel gates, sally ports, cameras watching every step. No blind spots, no easy exits. Yet Dawson was gone. Investigators pulled his file. Eric Dawson, age 46, sentenced in Texas for a double homicide in Houston. Transferred to California years later after ordering assaults from inside prison. Labeled extreme threat. He had spent 18 years in solitary. Then reforms moved him out. Case notes described him as calm, polite, withdrawn. One psychologist wrote a single line that now felt heavy. Patient adapts by becoming invisible. Investigators reviewed the camera outage. 3 minutes. Exactly 3. Maintenance logs showed no scheduled work. IT staff swore the system was stable. One technician whispered a theory. Old wiring, moisture, fog, an accident. But internal affairs didn't like accidents. They interviewed guards again. One officer admitted he had propped a door during count, just for a moment, to save time. Another admitted he forgot to log a movement. Tiny mistakes. Stacked together, they formed a gap wide enough for a man who had spent years learning how to disappear. The search moved inward. They checked ceiling panels, utility tunnels, crawl spaces meant for wires, not people. Behind a maintenance wall, they found it. A narrow service corridor, dust disturbed, scratches on concrete. At the end of the corridor was a locked hatch. It opened into a sealed storage room. Inside, they found a folded uniform, prison gray, and a note, written in pencil. 3 words. Still here. Panic spread. If Dawson wasn't out, then he was hiding. Inside Pelican Bay, the prison that never lost anyone had lost control. For 2 days, inmates stayed in cells. Meals slid through slots. Guards slept in shifts. On the 3rd night, a noise echoed through the SHU. A soft knock. Cell B14. The inmate inside froze. Another knock. Then a whisper. I remember you. Guards rushed in seconds later. Nothing there. No Dawson. No footprints. Just fear. The warden ordered a full sweep. Every inch. Every wall. They brought in engineers. They reviewed blueprints from 1989. One diagram showed an abandoned conduit system never finished during construction. Sealed off. Or so they thought. Behind cell D23, they found a hidden access point. It led to a narrow tunnel, barely tall enough to crawl. At the end of the tunnel was a small space. A man-sized space. Empty, but warm. Dawson had been there recently. The story broke nationwide. Pelican Bay loses inmate inside prison. Cable news argued all night. Some called it incompetence. Others called it proof the prison was too complex to manage. Then came the call. A guard found Dawson at 4:42 a.m. in the prison chapel. He was sitting in the back row, hands folded, waiting. He didn't run. He didn't fight. When asked why, he said one sentence. I wanted to see if anyone would look for me. Dawson was taken into custody. No charges were filed. No escape attempt, technically. He never left the building. The incident report labeled it a containment failure. But the damage was done. Lawmakers demanded answers. Hearings followed. Former inmates testified. Guards testified. Doctors testified. One senator asked a simple question. What happened to the most dangerous inmates in Pelican Bay? The answer came slowly. Some were broken. Some were released unprepared. Some lashed out. Some vanished into themselves. Daniel Reyes died after decades alone. Eric Dawson proved the prison could be fooled. Robert Lane showed what happened outside the walls. Pelican Bay was not evil. It was not kind. It was a machine built for one purpose: control. And machines don't heal people. The state announced changes. More mental health staff. More review boards. Less isolation. The SHU still exists, but it is smaller now. Quieter. In Crescent City, fog still rolls in. The prison still stands. Concrete. Steel. Lights always on. Inside, inmates sleep. Some dream of freedom. Some dream of walls. And some don't dream at all. The question remains: did Pelican Bay protect America? Or did it create something worse? The files are still open. The stories are still coming. And the silence inside those walls still has things to say.